The ground shook again. Commander Yuna pressed her back against the metal wall of the communication center and tried to stay calm. Above them, the beautiful crystal cities of Kessia Prime were turning to dust under enemy fire. The Thektar Empire had come to destroy her people, and they were doing a very good job of it. Another transport ship down, reported Officer Kiwan from his station. His voice was quiet, like he was afraid to say the words out loud. That's the 7th one today. They're not even letting our people escape. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. 7 transport ships meant thousands of her people were dead. The Villani had never been good at war. They had never needed to be. Their world was peaceful. Their technology focused on art and science, not weapons. When the Thektar warships appeared in their sky 3 days ago, the Villani military had lasted exactly 4 hours. "Ma'am," said Technician Hana from the main console, "the surface cities are reporting massive damage. The orbital bombardment is getting worse." Through the thick metal of their underground bunker, Yuna could hear the distant thunder of explosions. Each boom meant more of her people were dying. The Thektar were not interested in capturing prisoners or taking their resources. They just wanted to destroy everything. Captain Minho burst through the blast doors, his usually neat uniform torn and dirty. "Yuna, we need to surrender. Right now. Before they kill everyone." "Surrender to what?" Yuna asked. "They're not taking prisoners, Minho. Look at the reports. Every city they capture, they destroy completely. Every ship that tries to surrender, they blow up anyway." Minho sat down heavily in a chair. He was one of the smartest people Yuna knew, but right now he looked lost. "Then what do we do? Our fleet is gone. Our planetary defenses are gone. We have maybe 6 hours before they break through to this bunker." Yuna walked to the main communication array. It was the most powerful transmitter on the planet, designed to send messages across the galaxy. They had used it to share their music and poetry with other peaceful species. Now she was thinking about using it for something they had never done before. "We send a message," she said. "To who?" asked Kiwan. "The Galactic Council? They'll send a strongly worded letter telling the Thektar to stop. That's worked so well for the other worlds they've destroyed." "Not to the Council," Yuna said. She started typing commands into the console. "To everyone. Anyone who can hear us." Hana looked confused. "Ma'am, that would be a general distress call. We've never sent one of those. The Council says only primitive species send out random calls for help." "Maybe the Council is wrong," Yuna replied. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "Maybe there's someone out there who actually helps people instead of just talking about it." The building shook again, harder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling and the lights flickered. Through the communication system, they could hear radio chatter from the surface. Thektar ground forces had landed and were moving toward the last population centers. "They're targeting the schools first," reported Officer Sunho, his voice breaking. "The hospitals. The places where people can't fight back." Yuna's hand stopped moving. For a moment, rage filled her chest so completely she couldn't breathe. The Thektar weren't just conquering them. They were being deliberately cruel. They wanted the Villani to suffer before they died. "Yuna," Minho said softly, "even if someone hears our message, even if they want to help, they'd have to get past the Thektar fleet. Who's going to risk that for people they've never met?" Yuna looked at her friends, her colleagues, the people she had worked with for 10 years to keep their planet connected to the galaxy. They all looked defeated. They had given up hope. "I don't know," she said, "but I have to try." She finished programming the message and looked at the transmission settings. The array would send her words to every part of the galaxy that could receive them. Thousands of species would hear what she had to say. Most would ignore it. Some might feel sorry for them. But maybe, just maybe, someone would care enough to help. "This is Commander Yuna of Kessia Prime," she began, speaking into the microphone. "We are under attack by the Thektar Empire. Our defenses have failed. Our people are dying. We have never asked for help before, but we are asking now. If anyone can hear this message, if anyone has the power to help us, please come. We are not soldiers. We are not warriors. We are just people who want to live. Please help us." She added their location, their situation, and what little they knew about the Thektar fleet. Then she sent the message racing across space at faster than light speed. "There," she said. "It's done." Kiwan was monitoring the enemy communications. "Ma'am, the Thektar intercepted our transmission. They're laughing about it." "Let them laugh," Yuna said. "Maybe someone else heard it too. Far away, on a human patrol ship at the edge of known space." Communications Officer Jiwon was running her routine scan of galactic frequencies when she picked up something unusual. It was a distress call, but not like the normal ones. This one sounded desperate and real. "Captain Do-hyun," she called. "You need to hear this." Captain Do-hyun listened to the alien voice speaking in broken galactic standard. The translation came through clearly enough. A peaceful species was being destroyed by something called the Thektar Empire. They were asking for help from anyone who would listen. "Send this to Earth Command immediately," Do-hyun ordered. "Priority 1. Jiwon's fingers flew over her console. "Done, sir." "Should we alter course to investigate?" Do-hyun looked at the star charts. Cassia Prime was 3 days away at maximum speed. By the time they got there, it would probably be over. But something about the alien's voice bothered him. She had sounded like someone who had never asked for help before in her life. "No," he said finally. "We'll let Earth Command decide. But keep monitoring their frequency. If they send another message, I want to hear it." Back on Cassia Prime, Yuna and her team waited in their bunker as the sounds of battle grew closer. The Thektar ground forces were only a few kilometers away now. In a few hours, they would break through the bunker doors. "Do you really think someone will come?" asked Hana. Yuna looked at the communication array, still sending their message to the stars. "I don't know, but at least we tried." None of them knew that their message had already reached a species that had spent its entire history learning how to fight. A species that had never met a peaceful alien race before, but had very strong opinions about people who hurt the innocent. The humans were coming. Admiral Soo-young stood in the command center of Luna Station, looking at the holographic display that showed a star system she had never heard of before. The alien distress call had arrived 6 hours ago, and Earth Command had been analyzing it ever since. "What do we know about these Villani?" she asked. Intelligence analyst Hyun-woo pulled up a file on his tablet. "Not much, ma'am. They made contact with the Galactic Council about 50 years ago. Completely peaceful species, no military to speak of. They share art and music with other civilizations. Never been involved in any conflicts, and the Thektar? That's a different story." Hyun-woo's expression grew dark. "They're an aggressive empire that's been expanding for the last 200 years. They've conquered 17 star systems so far. Their pattern is simple. Show up, demand surrender, and if they don't get it immediately, they destroy everything." Admiral Soo-young studied the tactical data. The Thektar had 23 heavy warships surrounding the Villani homeworld. Their technology was advanced, their tactics proven through years of successful conquest. Any rescue mission would be extremely dangerous. "What about the Galactic Council?" asked Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung. "Are they sending help?" "They're having a meeting," Hyun-woo said with disgust. "They'll probably send a formal protest letter in a few weeks." The room fell quiet. Everyone present had read the reports about the Galactic Council. It was an organization of peaceful species that spent most of its time talking about problems instead of solving them. They had watched the Thektar destroy world after world while doing nothing but writing angry letters. "How many people are we talking about?" asked Admiral Soo-young. "Current population of Cassia Prime is about 14 million, reported Captain Jisoo, who had just arrived from her ship. "All civilians. No military installations, no weapons production, nothing strategic. The Thektar are attacking them just because they can." Admiral Soo-young had been in the military for 30 years. She had fought pirates, rebels, and hostile aliens, but she had never encountered anything quite like this. An entire peaceful civilization was being murdered, and the galaxy's so-called peacekeepers were going to let it happen. "Ma'am," said Communications Officer Won-ho, "we're getting reports that the Thektar are specifically targeting schools and hospitals. They're not just conquering the planet. They're trying to cause as much suffering as possible." Something cold settled in Admiral Soo-young's chest. She had read about the Thektar's methods, but hearing it described so clearly made it real. These weren't soldiers fighting soldiers. This was genocide for entertainment. "Options?" she asked. Captain Jisoo stepped forward. "The Third Fleet is currently on exercises near the Outer Rim. 47 ships, including 3 carriers and 5 dreadnoughts. We could reach the Kessia system in 4 days." "Against 23 Thektar heavy cruisers?" asked Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung. "That's not exactly favorable odds." "Depends on how you count," said Captain Jisoo with a small smile. "Our ships are human-designed. Theirs aren't." Admiral Soo-young knew what she meant. Human ships were built differently than most alien vessels. Earth was what the galaxy classified as a death world, a planet so dangerous that most species couldn't survive there for more than a few hours. The dominant species that evolved there had to be extremely tough, extremely smart, and extremely aggressive just to stay alive. That translated into military technology that other species found disturbing. Human weapons were designed to kill things that were very hard to kill. Human armor was built to protect people fighting in environments that would kill most aliens instantly. Human tactics were developed by a species that had been at war with something for its entire evolutionary history. "What about galactic law?" asked legal advisor Nari. "If we attacked the Thektar without council approval, we could be charged with aggression." Admiral Su-Young looked at her for a long moment. "Nari, how many Galactic Council members have militaries capable of enforcing their laws against us?" "Honestly, ma'am, none. Then I'm not worried about galactic law right now." The room was quiet again. Everyone understood what was happening. Earth had been part of the galactic community for only 20 years. Most alien species were still trying to figure out what to make of humans. They were fascinated by human art and culture, but deeply disturbed by human military capability. The truth was that humans scared the rest of the galaxy, not because they were evil, but because they were so good at violence. Most alien species had evolved on peaceful worlds and had never developed advanced military technology. When they met humans, it was like children meeting professional soldiers. "There's something else," said intelligence analyst Hyunwoo. "We've been monitoring Thektar communications. They think this distress call is funny. They're bragging about how no one will challenge them because they're too afraid." Admiral Su-Young felt her jaw tighten. The Thektar weren't just committing genocide. They were proud of it. They thought they were so powerful that no one would dare stand up to them. "Ma'am," said Captain Jisoo quietly, "if we don't respond to this, what message does that send? That humans are just like the rest of the galaxy? That we'll watch innocent people die and do nothing?" Fleet Admiral Taehyung nodded slowly. "The first time someone asks humans for help and we ignore them because it's too dangerous. That's not who we are." Admiral Su-Young looked around the room at her officers. These were people who had volunteered to serve in Earth's military. They had trained their entire careers to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. The fact that those people were aliens didn't change anything. "How long to mobilize the Third Fleet?" she asked. "They're already on standby," replied Captain Jisoo. "I took the liberty of putting them on alert when the distress call first arrived." "Of course you did." Admiral Su-Young smiled. "For the first time since the meeting began, signal the fleet. We launch in 2 hours. What should I tell them about the mission?" asked Communications Officer Won-ho. "Tell them that someone asked Earth for help," Admiral Su-Young said. "Tell them that we don't abandon people who need us. And tell them that the Thektar Empire is about to learn why humans are classified as a Deathworld species." As the meeting broke up and officers hurried to their duties, Admiral Su-Young remained in the command center, looking at the star charts. Cassia Prime was 4 days away at maximum speed. The Villani probably had less than a day before the Thektar finished destroying their world. It was going to be close. "Ma'am," said Communications Officer Won-ho. "Should we send a message to the Villani? Let them know help is coming?" Admiral Su-Young thought about it. A message might give the aliens hope, but it might also alert the Thektar that someone was actually responding to the distress call. On the other hand, if she were trapped in a bunker waiting to die, she would want to know that someone cared enough to try. "Send it," she said. "Short and simple. Help is coming." Hold on. Far away in her underground bunker on Cassia Prime, Commander Yuna stared at the message that had just appeared on her communication screen. 4 simple words that she had never expected to see. For the first time in 3 days, she smiled. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cassia system, like a pack of wolves entering a sheep pen. Admiral Su-Young stood on the bridge of the dreadnought, Soul's Vengeance, and stared at what the Thektar Empire had done to the peaceful world. "Below, tactical report," she ordered. 23. Thektar heavy cruisers in orbit around the planet, reported sensor operator Kyungmin. "They're maintaining a bombardment pattern, hitting population centers systematically. I'm detecting multiple ground installations under attack." Captain Jisoo studied her display screen with growing anger. "Ma'am, they're targeting civilian areas specifically. Look at this targeting pattern. They're hitting schools, hospitals, residential areas. They're avoiding anything that might be military. Because there is no military, said intelligence analyst Minji grimly. The Volani don't have weapons. The Thektar are just killing people for fun. Admiral Suyong watched the tactical display update in real time. Each red flash represented a bombardment strike. Each strike meant hundreds or thousands of alien civilians dying. The Thektar ships moved in careful formation, taking turns to fire on the planet below while others recharged their weapons. Life signs? She asked. Kyungmin's voice was quiet. Approximately 11 million remaining on the planet, ma'am. Down from 14 million when we started our journey. Here, 3 million people had died in the 4 days it took the human fleet to reach HFY Prime. Admiral Suyong felt something cold and angry settle in her stomach. She had seen war before, but this wasn't war. This was extermination. Ma'am, reported Communications Officer Da-Yun. The Thektar are hailing us. Put them through. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of a Thektar warship. The alien speaking was tall and thin, with dark scales and red eyes. He wore what looked like military decorations, and his expression showed complete confidence. Unknown vessels, the alien said in heavily accented galactic standard. This is General Vextar of the Thektar Imperial Fleet. You will withdraw from this system immediately or be destroyed. This world is under our authority. Admiral Suyong stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. This is Admiral Suyong of the Terran Defense Force. You will cease fire on the planet immediately and withdraw your forces from this system. General Vextar laughed. It was an unpleasant sound, like metal scraping against stone. Impossible. No species challenges the Thektar Empire. You are obviously new to this galaxy if you think you can give us orders. You have 30 seconds to stop shooting at civilians, Admiral Suyong said calmly. Civilians? General Vextar laughed again. These are conquered people. We do what we want with conquered people. Now leave before we add your ships to the debris field. Admiral Suyong looked at her chronometer. 25 seconds. You must be insane, General Vextar said. We have 23 heavy cruisers. You have what, 40 ships? Even if your technology is advanced, you cannot win against our superior numbers and experience. 15 seconds. Captain Jisoo was listening to reports from the other human ships. Ma'am, all vessels report ready for combat. Fighter squadrons are prepared to launch. 10 seconds. General Vextar's expression changed from amusement to confusion. Are you seriously threatening the Thektar Empire? Do you have any idea what happens to species that oppose us? 5 seconds. This is your last warning, alien. Withdraw now or time's up, Admiral Suyong said quietly. Then louder. All ships, weapons free. Show them why Earth is a death world. The Soul's Vengeance fired first. Its main railgun accelerated a tungsten slug to 30% of light speed and sent it screaming across space toward the nearest Thektar cruiser. The projectile hit the alien ship's shields and punched through them like they weren't there. It continued through the ship's armor, through its hull and out the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole that vented atmosphere and crew into space. The Thektar ship exploded 3 seconds later. What? General Vextar started to say, but his transmission was cut off as human ships opened fire across the battle zone. Captain Jisoo coordinated the fighter attack from her command station. All wings, you are cleared to engage. Remember your training. These aliens have never fought Deathworlders before. Wing Commander Wanho led the first squadron of human fighters toward the Thektar formation. The alien ships immediately began defensive maneuvers, but they moved slowly and predictably. Their pilots had learned to fight against other aliens who evolved on peaceful worlds. They had never faced pilots who grew up on a planet where quick reflexes meant survival. Human fighters danced through Thektar defensive fire like it was barely there. Their pilots could handle accelerations that would knock most aliens unconscious. Their reaction times were measured in milliseconds instead of seconds. Their targeting systems were designed to hit things that were actively trying to kill them. This is Wing Commander Wanho, came the voice over the communication system. The Thektar fighters are too slow. It's like fighting training drones. On the planet's surface, Commander Yuna watched through her facility's sensor array as the mysterious rescue fleet engaged the Thektar forces. She had never seen space combat before, but even she could tell that something unusual was happening. Their ships move differently, observed Captain Minho, staring at the tactical display. Look at those acceleration patterns. How are they not crushing their crews with those maneuvers? Technician Hana was monitoring the communications channels. I'm picking up transmissions from the rescue fleet. They're speaking something called Terran Standard? I've never heard of that language before. Run it through the translation system, ordered Yuna. The computer worked for a moment, then began providing subtitles for the alien communications. What Yuna heard made her wonder what kind of species had answered their distress call. Target destroyed. Moving to engage Cruiser 47. Confirmed kill on Flagship Alpha. Enemy commander is down. Watch your 6, Jinwoo. You've got a fighter on your tail. Never mind, he's gone. The aliens spoke about battle like humans talked about a routine workday. There was no excitement, no fear, just professional competence at destroying other people's ships. It was somehow both reassuring and terrifying. Up in space, General Vextar was learning why the Thektar Empire had never encountered humans before. His fleet, which had conquered 17 star systems without losing a single ship, was being systematically destroyed by aliens he had never heard of. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship, he ordered. Bring down their leader and the rest will flee. 6 Thektar cruisers focused their weapons on the Soul's vengeance. Their energy beams struck the human dreadnought's shields and did almost nothing. The ship didn't even slow down. Sir, reported his tactical officer, our weapons are having minimal effect. Their shield technology is unlike anything in our database. Impossible, General Vextar snarled. No one has better technology than the Thektar Empire. His ship shook as human missiles struck its hull. The explosion sent vibrations through the deck plating that felt wrong somehow. Too powerful. Too focused. Sir, we've lost ships 7, 12, and 15. Their weapons are... Sir, I don't think they're energy weapons at all. I think they're firing solid projectiles. Solid projectiles? General Vextar stared at his officer. That's primitive technology. No advanced species uses kinetic weapons. These kinetic weapons are moving at relativistic speeds, sir. They're punching through our shields and armor like they're not there. General Vexitar looked at his tactical display and felt something he had never experienced before in his 20 years of conquest. Fear. Half his fleet was gone. The enemy had lost exactly 0 ships, and they were moving through his formations like they owned the space around Kessia Prime. All ships, he broadcast on the emergency frequency, retreat to hyperspace. Immediate withdrawal, but it was too late. Human fighters had disabled the hyperspace engines on most of the remaining Thektar ships. The aliens who had come to commit genocide found themselves trapped in a system with people who had evolved to be very, very good at killing things that threatened them. The battle was not going the way General Vextar had expected. In his 20 years of military service, he had conquered 17 star systems and never lost a single engagement. The Thektar Empire's strategy was simple and effective. Show up with overwhelming force, demonstrate superior technology, and watch enemy species surrender immediately. It had worked perfectly until today. Sir, we've lost 12 ships, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Haxville. The enemy fleet hasn't taken any damage at all. General Vextar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The unknown aliens were moving through his formation like predators hunting prey. Their ships accelerated impossibly fast, turned on impossibly tight angles, and fired weapons that his shields couldn't stop. What species are these aliens? He demanded. Unknown, sir. They're not in any of our databases. But, sir, their planet of origin is listed as a death world. General Vextar felt his blood go cold. Death worlds were planets so dangerous that they were marked as forbidden zones in galactic navigation charts. Most species couldn't survive on them for more than a few minutes. The dominant life forms that evolved on such worlds were usually extinct within a few thousand years, killed by their own planet. But sometimes, very rarely, a species survived long enough to develop technology and reach space. When that happened, they brought Death World reflexes and Death World weapons to a galaxy full of peaceful species. The Thektar Empire had standing orders to avoid Death World species whenever possible. Sir, called out Communications Officer Zuran, the enemy is broadcasting on all frequencies. Put them through, General Vextar ordered. The voice that came over the speakers was calm and professional, but there was something underneath it that made the general's scales crawl. It was the voice of someone who was very good at violence and didn't mind using that skill. This is Admiral Suyung of the Terran Defense Force. Thektar vessels, you will cease fire immediately and surrender, or we will destroy you completely. You have 60 seconds to respond. General Vextar switched to his command frequency. All ships, ignore their surrender demand. Continue the attack. We are the Thektar Empire. We do not surrender to anyone. But even as he gave the order, he could see his ships falling back. The human fighters were everywhere, moving through Thektar defensive fire like it was standing still. Their pilots performed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible, pulling acceleration forces that would kill most alien pilots instantly. Captain Jisoo watched the battle from her command center aboard the carrier Busan's Pride. Her fighter squadrons were reporting minimal resistance from the enemy forces. Wing Commander Wonho, what's your assessment of their capabilities? She asked. Ma'am, it's like fighting children, came the reply. Their reaction times are about 3 times slower than ours. Their ships can't handle the acceleration forces we're using, and their weapons are designed for long-range bombardment, not close combat. Any casualties on our side? None, ma'am. Lieutenant Sunho took some minor hull damage, but his ship is fully operational. Captain Jisoo nodded. This was exactly what Earth's military analysts had predicted. Most alien species evolved on peaceful worlds and never developed the kind of combat reflexes that humans had. When they fought each other, it was usually with long-range weapons and careful positioning. They had never learned to fight up close and personal against an enemy that wanted to kill them. Humans, on the other hand, had evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill them all the time. They had developed lightning-fast reflexes, incredible endurance, and the ability to think clearly under extreme stress. When they built spaceships, they built them the same way they built everything else, tough enough to survive on Earth. Down on the planet's surface, Commander Yuna was getting her first real look at the species that had answered their distress call. Her long-range sensors were picking up details about the human ships, and what she saw was disturbing. Their hulls are incredibly thick, reported Technician Hana. Look at these readings. That metal is at least 3 times denser than our standard ship construction. And their weapons, added Captain Minho, studying the tactical data. They're not using energy beams at all. They're firing chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Why would anyone design weapons like that? Asked Yuna. Energy weapons are much more efficient. Not if you evolved on a world where you had to kill things that were very hard to kill, Minho said quietly. Energy weapons work great against shields and light armor, but if you need to punch through something really tough, you use kinetic force. Yuna was beginning to understand what kind of species had come to rescue them. These weren't peaceful explorers like most galactic civilizations. These were warriors, from a world so dangerous that they had to become killers just to survive. And right now they were killing the Thektar Empire for her. Back in space, General Vextar was facing a decision he had never had to make before. His fleet was being destroyed. His ships were being picked apart by enemies he couldn't fight effectively. And for the first time in his career, he was considering retreat. Sir, reported Lieutenant Commander Haxville, ships 4, 9, 11, 14, 16, and 21 are reporting critical damage. They're requesting permission to surrender. Surrender? General Vextar couldn't believe what he was hearing. Thektar warriors do not surrender. Sir, with respect, Thektar warriors have never fought Deathworlders before. As if to emphasize the point, the ship shook as another human missile struck their hull. This time, the explosion felt different. Closer, something important had been hit. Engineering reports that our main reactor is offline, called out the damage control officer. We're running on backup power only. General Vextar looked at his tactical display one more time. Of his original 23 ships, only 8 were still combat effective. The humans had lost 0 ships and seemed to be treating the entire battle as a routine training exercise. Sir, said Communications Officer Zuran, I'm monitoring the human frequencies. They're not even trying to encrypt their transmissions. They don't consider us a threat. The general listened to the translated human communications for a moment. The aliens were coordinating their attack with casual professionalism, like they were conducting a military drill rather than a life-or-death battle. Blue Squadron, swing around and hit the cruisers from behind. Make sure you disable their engines first. We want prisoners for interrogation. Red Squadron confirmed, moving to intercept any ships trying to escape the system. Medical teams, prepare for boarding operations. We'll need to treat wounded prisoners according to galactic conventions. It was that last comment that broke General Vextar's spirit. The humans were already planning to take prisoners and treat them according to galactic law. They were so confident, a victory, that they were worried about following proper legal procedures. All ships, he broadcast on the emergency frequency, cease fire and prepare to surrender. The response from his fleet was immediate relief. Ship after ship reported that they were powering down weapons and raising white flags. The humans responded by surrounding each Thektar vessel but holding their fire. Admiral Suyung's voice came over the communications system again. Thektar vessels, this is Admiral Suyung. You will maintain position and await boarding by human security teams. Any attempt to restart weapons or engines will be considered an act of aggression. General Vextar slumped in his command chair. In less than an hour, the mighty Thektar Imperial fleet had been completely defeated by aliens they had never heard of. Worse, the humans had made it look easy. "Sir," asked Lieutenant Commander Haxville quietly, "what do we tell the Empire?" General Vextar thought about that question for a long moment. How do you explain to your superiors that you encountered a species so militarily advanced that they destroyed your fleet without taking a single casualty? How do you tell the most powerful empire in the galaxy that there are people out there who are stronger than you? "We tell them the truth," he said finally. "We tell them that there are Deathworlders in this galaxy and they fight like demons." 3 days after the battle, Commander Yuna stood in the main landing bay of her communication facility and watched as an alien shuttle touched down on Kessia Prime. It was her first time seeing the beings who had answered their desperate call for help. The shuttle door opened and 3 figures stepped out. They were bipedal like the Villani, but shorter and more heavily built. Their skin was a dark brown color, and they moved with a confidence that Yuna had never seen in any alien species before. These people looked like they expected trouble and were prepared to handle it. The leader stepped forward and spoke in accented but clear galactic standard. "Commander Yuna? I'm Captain Do-hyun of the Terran Defense Force. Are you injured?" "No," Yuna replied, still staring at the humans. "No, we're fine. You actually came. When we sent that message, we never expected anyone to really answer it." Captain Do-hyun looked confused. "Why wouldn't we answer? You asked for help." It was such a simple statement, but it hit Yuna like a physical blow. In all her years of listening to galactic communications, she had heard dozens of distress calls from different species. Most were ignored. The few that got responses usually received offers to mediate or negotiate or send humanitarian aid after the conflict was resolved. No one just showed up with a military fleet and destroyed the attackers. "Captain," said the human female standing behind Do-hyun, "we should get the medical teams down here immediately. My scanners are showing a lot of injured people who need treatment." "Already on it, Dr. Gina," replied Captain Do-hyun. He looked back at Yuna. "We brought medical supplies and emergency food. Our ships are also equipped with fabrication systems that can produce whatever you need for reconstruction." Yuna felt her legs go weak. She sat down heavily on a nearby crate and tried to process what she was hearing. "You're going to help us rebuild?" "Of course," said Dr. Gina, kneeling down next to her. "That's what you do when someone's home gets destroyed. You help them fix it." Captain Minho, who had been standing quietly in the background, stepped forward. "Excuse me, but I have to ask. What species are you? We've never encountered anything like your technology before." "We're humans," Captain Do-hyun said. "We're from a planet called Earth. It's about 200 light-years from here." "Earth," repeated Technician Hana, who was running the name through her galactic database. "I'm not finding any records of that planet or your species." The third human, a male who had introduced himself as Lieutenant Minji, spoke up. "That's because we're new to the galactic community. We only made contact about 20 years ago. Most species are still trying to figure out what to make of us." Over the next several hours, Yuna learned more about humans than she had ever known about any alien species. They were from what they called a death world, a planet so dangerous that most galactic species couldn't survive there. They had evolved as persistence hunters, chasing their prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their entire civilization was built around the concept of never giving up. When they reached space, they brought those same values with them. They built their ships to survive in environments that would destroy most alien vessels. They trained their military to fight in conditions that would panic most other species. And when they encountered problems, their solution was usually to apply overwhelming force until the problem went away. "But why did you help us?" asked Captain Minho. "You don't know us. We're not part of your civilization. We can't offer you anything in return." Captain Do-hyun looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "You asked for help. Your people were being murdered. What else were we supposed to do?" It was then that Yuna realized the fundamental difference between humans and every other species she knew. Most galactic civilizations helped people when it was convenient, profitable, or politically advantageous. Humans helped people because they needed help. The conversation was interrupted when Communications Officer Sunho burst into the room. "Commander, we're getting multiple signals from incoming ships. Long-range sensors show at least 7 different fleets approaching the system." Captain Do-hyun immediately activated his communicator. "Seoul's Vengeance, this is Do-hyun. We have unknown ships approaching. What's the tactical situation?" Admiral Soo-young's voice came through clearly. "We're tracking them, Captain. It looks like news of our little engagement with the Thektar has spread. We've got delegations from the Galactic Council, 3 different refugee fleets, and what appears to be a very nervous Altarian diplomatic mission." "Refugees?" asked Yuna. "Word travels fast in this galaxy," explained Dr. Gina. "Other species that have been attacked by the Thektar are probably hoping for the same help we gave you." Over the next day, Kessia Prime became the center of galactic attention. Ships arrived from across known space, all wanting to understand how an unknown species had defeated the Thektar Empire so completely. The first to arrive was the Galactic Council representative, an Altarian named Cordan. He was tall, elegant, and clearly nervous about meeting the humans who had just redefined military power in the galaxy. "Admiral Soo-young," he said during their first meeting, "the Council is very concerned about this incident. The use of military force without proper authorization could set a dangerous precedent." Admiral Soo-young looked at him with the same expression she might use when examining something unpleasant on her shoe. "Councillor Cordan, in the time it took your council to debate whether to hold a meeting about the Thektar attack, 3 million innocent people died. We stopped the killing. I'd call that a success. But the political implications, Admiral Soo-young interrupted, are that the Thektar Empire has surrendered 17 star systems and requested immediate peace negotiations. They're so terrified of encountering more humans that they've offered to pay reparations to every species they've attacked in the last 200 years, Cordan's expression shifted from concern to amazement. "They surrendered? All of them?" Apparently, news of a Deathworld species entering galactic politics has caused quite a stir in their empire. They're calling us the demons from the metal ships and warning their citizens to avoid human space at all costs. Later that day, Yuna met with the refugee representatives. They were from 3 different species that had been attacked by the Thektar in recent years. Their homeworlds had been destroyed, their people scattered across the galaxy as refugees. "Is it true?" asked the Zephyrian delegate, her translucent blue skin shimmering with emotion. "Did you really defeat the entire Thektar fleet without losing a single ship?" "It's true," confirmed Captain Jisoo, who had joined the meeting. "Our military is designed for combat against hostile forces. The Thektar discovered that they were not as advanced as they thought. Would you—" The delegate hesitated. "Would you consider helping us reclaim our homeworld?" It was Admiral Soo-young who answered. "The Terran Defense Force doesn't abandon people who need help. If you want to go home, we'll help you get there." The meeting ended with formal requests from 12 different species for human protection. By the end of the week, that number had grown to 43. Commander Yuna found herself appointed as the first Villani ambassador to Earth. It was a position that had never existed before. But then again, the Villani had never had anything worth being diplomatic about. "I still don't understand," she told Admiral Soo-young during their final meeting. "Why us? Why did you respond to our call when you could have ignored it like everyone else?" Admiral Soo-young was quiet for a moment, looking out at the reconstruction efforts taking place across Kessia Prime. Human engineering teams were working alongside Villani civilians to rebuild their cities. Medical teams were treating the last of the wounded. Supply ships were delivering everything from food to construction materials. "My species has a saying," she said finally. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We heard your call for help and we decided to do something about it. But you didn't know if we were good people, Yuna pointed out. We could have been criminals or warmongers or worse. You could have been, Admiral Su-young agreed. But you weren't. You were people asking for help because someone was trying to kill you. That was enough for us. As the human fleet prepared to leave Kessia Prime, Yuna received one final piece of news that would change everything. The Galactic Council had received a formal request from the Thektar Empire for human mediation in their surrender. Negotiations. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for 2 centuries was asking the humans to protect them from the revenge of their former victims. It was, Yuna thought, the most human thing she had ever heard. The same people who had destroyed the Thektar fleet were now being asked to make sure no one else destroyed them in return. And knowing the humans as she was beginning to understand them, they would probably say yes.